to Accelerativ Thrust, our usually weekly Zoom cloud meeting. My name is Dan.
And I'm Eric.
All right. So, do you think that they really have meetings in the clouds?
Yeah, maybe like the angels.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was talking about.
Or those guys with the round glasses that they use fishing poles. I don't know if you remember that. They floated around in the clouds.
Yeah, I do
in
remember
Mario
that. In Mario, yes.
Yep. So those
Mario
are cloud
World.
meetings.
Yeah, those are cloud meetings. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, angels. I guess I was thinking, I was right with you there. Angels, maybe even devils.
Oh,
Yeah.
whoa.
Because, I mean, I'm sure devils hang out in the clouds sometimes.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Probably more like plumes of smoke.
Yeah,
like black
true.
fire clouds.
Well, I was thinking maybe like sometimes, you know how like angels are devils in disguise?
Oh.
Or devils are angels in disguise, rather.
Wow.
I mean, that happens.
I mean it. Yeah, Lucifer, he was an angel.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, Lucifer hanging out in the clouds with diamonds.
Yeah. Lucifer in the clouds with diamonds. Yes.
Exactly. We just changed history. Congratulations. Holy crap. We just did that in the first 2 minutes of our podcast. Can you believe that?
Kind of.
Yeah, I can too. We're always changing history.
Yeah.
Based on what we talk about, it seems like.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Huh.
So,
wow.
What do you got for us today, Eric?
What do I got?
Anything? What do you got?
Kirk Hammett from Metallica. He just released an EP of cinematic horror music. So that's cool.
Shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I might be reviewing that coming up because you know what? I like Kirk Hammett and I don't care. Like, he seems like a down to earth dude. I mean, he seems kind of like a wiener, you know, but he seems cool. And I think he's a true horror fan. I really think that yeah, actually there was a picture of him when I was a kid, a photograph in a magazine. I think it was Rip, if you remember Rip. But it was just him sitting in his room with a bunch of horror toys and magazines and movies and stuff. And I would sort of pore over that photograph when I was a kid and just be like, oh my God, look at all Kirk's cool shit. So I don't know. That that has nothing to do with anything, but I just think he seems like a pretty cool guy, and I am willing to give the EP a chance.
Yeah, out of all of the Metallica members, he definitely seems like the coolest one. I also really like Jason Newsted.
Yeah.
I did. I really liked Jason Newsted. He seemed like a really cool guy, and I think it was awesome. Have you seen the Some Kind of Monster documentary?
Yeah.
I think it was awesome that he was just like, well, if I can't do this thing, this Echo Brain side project, and Metallica at the same time, if that bothers you that much, Mr. Hetfield, I guess that I'm going to leave.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. I mean, to leave the most successful metal band of all time, arguably, in that way. So. Yeah. It's really, really, that had to have been a hard decision for him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Echo Brain is so amazing. It's almost like no choice, you know?
Yeah. I think I listened to Echo Brain a couple times, and I honestly do not remember a thing about it.
I think if I remember, I think it was sort of not very good grunge music, but I might be wrong. I don't know.
He did put out a record under the name Newsted, which was a metal record, and he was fronting it. Oh. It was pretty good. It was pretty good. It wasn't amazing. It was. Wow. But it was pretty good. That was a few years ago.
Well,
and he was also in Flotsam and Jetsam too.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. 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 His legacy is firmly intact. I was
Yes,
just,
and he was in
yeah.
Voivod for a while too. Forgot about
Nice.
that.
I love
So,
Voivod. Yeah.
me too.
I like Robert Trujillo though. I mean, I don't have a problem with him.
Well, yeah, suicidal
He's
tendencies.
yeah, and infectious grooves,
Yeah,
and he seems
yep.
like endlessly stoked to be playing, and
Sure,
I think it's
sure.
good. I think it's a good thing. It is weird as shit though that in between that he played with Ozzy.
That in between joining in between
Metallica.
suicidal and Metallica,
Yeah.
or
Uh-huh.
why is that weird?
Well, I don't I just have never thought Ozzy's music needed funky slap bass. So
Oh yeah, that's true. But neither did Metallica's,
yeah.
clearly.
Yeah.
I mean, the first album was Saint Anger with Robert Trujillo, if that
Yeah.
tells you anything. Which I
That's
don't think
true.
Trujillo had any input on that record at all.
Yeah. Nope. They were like, just shut up, crab walk, play the fucking songs.
And don't start any side projects.
Yeah. Yeah. From this point on, you never knew Mike Muir. You never knew Ozzy Osbourne.
I would have loved to have seen the documentary on the making of Lulu, like Lou Reed. I'm not going to let you walk on in here and ruin this metal shit with your art stuff.
Yeah, with your funky art.
Like, we find out it was a really horrible experience for both of them.
Yeah.
They were just faking the being excited about it.
Yeah. It was just Lou and Rob hanging out, surfing.
That was it. Yeah. The only cool member is that suicidal tendencies guy. I don't get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
But, well, I mean, lots of musicians, like who was it? The drummer of Faith No More.
Puffy.
Puffy, yes,
Yeah.
the rapper.
Yeah.
He drummed for Ozzy too on Ozfest for a while.
That's right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that was between leaving Faith No More and reuniting with Faith No More. So
that's a pretty good side gig for a while, though.
It really is. Oh, I'm sure that it pays well.
Yeah.
Could you imagine playing
alongside?
Well,
they got to play a bunch of Sabbath stuff too.
That's true. That's true. Could you imagine playing alongside Zakk Wylde though?
I mean, think I'd be afraid the whole time.
I would be. There's
he's kind
no
of a
way.
big toughie,
Yeah, he's really and I guess that Pantera is getting back together.
Yeah, and I was just thinking about that because I can't imagine two people I would hate to hang out with more than Zakk Wylde and Phil Anselmo. Seriously.
Yeah,
I'd rather die. And I'm not even joking. Like, listening to Phil Anselmo talk, it's like a soulless, dead demon whose voice is just like pumped through him like bellows, like from hell. Like, it just comes through him. He doesn't even have any reaction to what he's saying, and it just comes through like he's not even in control. I don't know how to explain it. I know that sounds weird, but he's seriously like, and then, oh, Pantera, I was on drugs. I died for 3 fucking minutes. Like, that's his life. I hate him. I hate him so much.
He does sound like Gore, like in real life.
and then Zach, what's he gonna do? Just be like, yeah, Phil, that's fucked up. I was dead for a couple minutes once too. When I crashed my hog. It's like, oh my God. Such dudes. I could not be around them.
Total biker. I don't remember who's replacing, because there's somebody else because obviously Dimebag Darrell and his brother both are dead.
Yeah, Vinnie Paul.
So Vinnie Paul. So I can't remember who's replacing Vinnie Paul, but there's somebody else, like
the drummer Charlie Benante from Anthrax.
From Anthrax. Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
Anthrax seems
Charlie's
like pretty
cool.
Anthrax just seems like cool guys all the way, though. Like, I mean, Scott Ian seems like a really stand-up guy.
Yeah, Danny Spitz seems like
Danny Spitz.
Cool
I mean,
guy.
Anthrax just exactly.
Frank Bello seems like, I don't know, just kind of a guy, but he doesn't seem like a dick.
Yeah, no, he really doesn't. They all don't. None
the
of them
only
really
one I
seem
can
like
think of
dicks.
is Joey Belladonna. That might be a little, I don't know, egotistical maybe, but I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't have any reason to think that other than just his voice. I feel like anyone who sings like that probably isn't a meek, mild
Yeah,
person. You know, I doubt he's
probably
like,
not.
oh, just sing in a heavy metal band. No, I don't. I don't think that's how he probably acts.
If he had that voice, then he would automatically be a cool guy in my book.
Yeah. You guys ready to play Cotton and Mosh?
Yeah. This is a song called "Bring the Noise." It's with our friends Public Enemy.
Take it away,
Yeah.
Chuck.
Yeah, take it away, Chuck. Hear the
God.
drummer get wicked.
Yeah. He's turning into almost like Snagglepuss.
Yeah, Snaggle. That would be so great. Anthrax, though, but
Woo.
boy, what a great name for a band, Anthrax.
Yeah. Yeah, when Joey quit, they brought in Snagglepuss to sing.
To replace him. Well, he
John
was the closest we could
Snaggle
find.
Snagglebush was his name.
John Snagglebush. Yeah, that boy, those records were a little tough to get through all the time.
I didn't care for him.
They were definitely they did what every metal band did during that time, which was try to go like somewhat new metal / grunge.
Yeah. It's really funny how much time we spend talking about heavy metal.
It really is.
And then we barely even review heavy metal.
Yeah,
records.
we never review. We do sometimes. I think we've reviewed Cave In Until Your Heart Stops on here. We've reviewed
oh yeah, we've reviewed a lot of metal, but
we do
compared to how much we talk about metal. Holy smoke.
Absolutely. And basically this is a metal podcast where we talk about avant-garde music.
Yeah. Because as everyone knows, I'm a huge metal poser. So it's like,
yes,
I just talk about it. I don't listen to it.
I'm definitely am not what you would consider a real metalhead.
Yeah.
I'm more like a fake metalhead. Yeah, I heard something. I didn't actually read this, but on Hip Hop DX, I saw that Kanye West made somebody a Soul to Soul mixtape. You remember Soul to Soul?
Yeah. Well, no, Back to Life.
I think it was some
Is that their song?
Yeah, weren't they? Yeah. I guess he made somebody a mixtape of like collection of his favorite songs from Soul to Soul. But or if that's like the name of like a new mixtape from Kanye West or something.
Wow.
Which Kanye West is not at the level where he needs to be making mixtapes. So that would be pretty interesting if that's the case. But
yeah,
I don't know what the deal is.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to comment. I'm not going to comment any further, but I just saw that headline and I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Back to Life is a great song.
It is. It is a great song.
Like the main refrain that everyone remembers is fine, you know, back to life, back to reality, that one. But when it gets to the however do you want me, however do you need me, that part's so good.
It is. It is. That is a great song.
I really liked that fake pop techno stuff in the late 80s, early 90s.
Sure. Like
Technotronic rules.
Yep.
Like
Technotronic is amazing. So is that Nina Cherry. Remember her?
Oh man, Buffalo Stance.
Buffalo Stance is so good.
Such a good song. And in the break, she goes,
"You know I'm me."
Yeah, yeah.
And do you want to know something really funny or interesting, or maybe it's not either of those things?
Mm-hmm.
So one of my favorite records that I consider to be horribly underrated is Duck Rock by Malcolm McLaren. I think I've probably mentioned it on here a few times, but Malcolm McLaren, you know, he was the manager for the Sex Pistols and then went on to manage Adamant and then Bow Wow.
Sure. Yes. I don't think you mentioned that record, but didn't we review an Adam and Ants record? Yes. Okay.
Kings of the Wild Frontier.
I think you might have mentioned it then.
If you guys haven't listened to that, you should listen to it. But
it's a great record.
Duck Rock. This is a true story. Malcolm McLaren set out to make a record about American traditional music, specifically um square dancing music. Okay, but while he was here, he also got way into the New York hip hop underground. This is like 1980, so like the very, very beginning.
Right.
And anyway, so one of the songs is called Buffalo Girls.
And, yes.
And it is a hip hop square dancing song.
Yep.
But here's what's kind of interesting. From the video for that, you remember when Pharrell was wearing those big hats?
Yes.
And they were called buffalo hats.
Buffalo hats, yes.
Yeah, that was from the video for that song.
Oh, okay.
And the main sample and lyrical outline of Buffalo Stance is also taken from Buffalo Girls from Duck Rock.
Huh, that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's kind of interesting. And Duck Rock totally rules. Like everyone should, whatever we review on the rest of this episode, actually go listen to Duck Rock. You might actually think it sucks because it is goofy as hell. Like I just said, it's a square dancing hip hop record. So
yeah,
it's really weird, but it's super cut up, samples, recordings from real radio, hip hop radio shows from that time, like middle of the night call-in hip hop shows. It's just really, really something. It's a time capsule.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out. I know the song Buffalo Girls because De La Soul sampled it. Also on Stakes is High. Buffalo Girls is sampled or at least referenced in it. I don't know if the sample is. I actually let me rewind back a little bit. I can't confirm that it's actually sampled of the song, but they do reference it, which makes me think it probably is sampled in one of the songs, which, forgive me, I can't think of the title of it right now. I just know that it's track 8. Nice. And it's so good.
All right.
De-La were so awesome at that, though, like sampling a bunch of shit. But anyway.
Yeah. Oh, I have to mention also, there's a song called Whip Smart. You may have heard it by Liz Phair. There's a song on Duck Rock called Double Dutch. And one of the main lines, one of the main refrains of that song is, when they do the double Dutch, that's them dancing. And Liz Phair took that line for Whip Smart too.
Oh, wow.
I know.
That's insane. So there was like, it seems like this thing was kind of a pop culture icon sort of.
It was an underground hip hop classic, like super underground.
There is no way. I bet you anything. There is no way that the Beastie Boys have not tackled that at some point in their career.
You know, I think they did sample some of the interlude kind of things that happen in the record.
Sure. There, just knowing like the way you're describing it, that just sounds like gold for the Beastie Boys, you know? Yeah,
I don't know. I would like to look into that. I'm not sure. Speaking of looking into things, I think I have to come clean about something. I gave an outrageously misinformed review last week of Angel Rada. Well, maybe it's not outrageous, but here's the deal. Stupid ass Spotify, who I have to mention we are sponsored by Spotify. No, we're not. Spotify.
Another misinformed take.
Yeah. Spotify will list things that got uploaded in 2022 as being released in 2022. And that sucks because it's not accurate, especially if you look like, I think the worst one I've seen is probably Swans, where it's like every album came out in the 2010s. It's like, no, it didn't. Like, and I know that, and I still didn't do my research. And so the Angel Rada record we reviewed did not come out in 2022. It came out in 1983. So that explains nearly any of the interesting questions I had about it, about the sound of it, the production, his influence, every aspect of it is now sort of in question because it really makes a big difference if it came out in 1983 or 2022.
Big time.
So I just wanted to say, like, even though I did throughout the review state the caveat of, I don't know much about him. You should look into it. You guys do the research. I don't know. Even with that being said, I still was super wrong. And I felt really dumb about it.
Did you say that it came out in 2022?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I approached
Really?
it as if it just came out. So anyway,
I guess I just don't remember you actually saying, but I guess I don't remember anything about our dates. But well, it's really, really, it's really easy. Spotify, it's really easy to get that wrong with Spotify for sure.
It's really frustrating. And I'll have to obviously just try harder to get my research right. And I'm willing to do that. And I will do that. And I just wanted to throw that out there that
what's ironic about that?
What's that?
What's ironic about that? You remember My Pick Subtitle had the same situation going on, except not as bad because it actually came out in 2011.
Right.
So there's only like an 8-year difference. So it really wouldn't have made that much of a difference. But with Angel Rada, that I can definitely see how Angel Rada, with it coming out in 83 versus 2020.
Yeah.
It's a huge difference because then you can really say that like Angel Rada probably did inspire a lot of stuff after it, especially that record.
Absolutely.
Which I'm sure happened 100%.
Yeah. But anyway, I just wanted to say, I know I'm dumb. That's about it. For all the listeners are like, this guy's dumb. I don't trust him anymore because he's too dumb and doesn't do his research. I swear I will work harder at it, and I will not trust Spotify. Well, when it comes to dates,
you're not the dumb one. Spotify is.
Well,
they're the ones who are giving out the misinformation.
Yeah, but the fool me twice sort of thing, because it definitely
I feel a lawsuit coming on.
Ooh, you made me look like an idiot. You're going to court.
Now that was a total mob voice. We need to join the mob, dude. That's how we're gonna get our money from Spotify.
What am I, a clown to you, Spotify? To make you fucking laugh?
What do you do? Do you think
that's a spiciest synthesizer? Jesus Christ.
Spicy synthesizer.
Okay, now we're just being racist.
Oh man.
Holy hell.
I'll tell you what though, man, meatballs are good. Ooh boy.
Yeah.
I love me some meatballs.
I like meatless balls. Let's talk about records. Jesus.
Yeah, God. Let's do that. Because we're everything leads into something else with me, and we just end up like, So who goes first this time?
Well, so I will start.
All right, sounds good.
All right. So let me find just one quick piece of info here. Okay. Oh, holy crap. Okay, record time. It's record time.
Come on, everybody, it's record time. All right.
So my pick this week is by artist named Masma Dream World. Well, the artist's real name is Devi Mambuka, but the project is called Masma Dream World. This is a cool record. And so how I heard of this is through Mr. Chris Wersema, who is a local taste maker. He runs the Feed Me Weird Things series. He's in Death Bag with Gabby Vanek, and he's an all-around cool guy. I like him. And so anyway, Masma Dream World is part of Feed Me Weird Things Feast, which is a festival coming up in November. And so Masma Dream World will be playing at Gabe's on November 4th in Iowa City. With all that being said, it is really different. All the things that we review on here, not all the things, but a lot of the things I say, I don't even have the words to describe it. And that usually is somewhat hyperbolic. This time, It really is kind of true. It's very unlike anything I've ever heard before. So I'll try to describe what's happening or what I heard, and we'll just go from there. But yeah, it's very intriguing. It feels almost more like being an archaeologist than a listener. Like you're digging through layers and layers of things, and those layers, they go a lot of different places. There's lots of cool like tribal rhythms. There's like really intense, layered, sort of like dexterous vocals. Like they go a lot of different places. Sometimes there's a like group vocals that almost sound like 50s girl group stuff in a totally weird way. The vocals sometimes would get so far out that it's almost like Diamanda Gallus or something, like, but really interesting, very cinematic. Sometimes it sounds like field recordings. Like there's one track that kind of just sounds like they recorded a market in like Morocco or something, like just recorded the sounds of the market, and there's drums. What it really reminds me of, and this is a kind of a weird reference, but if you know it, you know it. In the first part of The Exorcist, it happens in Iraq, and it's like a little story at the beginning about the preacher. Anyway, there's a scene where there's some guys and they're hammering on something in a circle, and the sound of the metal hammers is like really almost hypnotic. Some of the aspects of this record reminded me of that. So it's really weird. There is that element of like field recordings from places far away from America. I think it's an extremely deep and dense listening experience. Like, I don't even know how to describe how sort of deep the sounds go. Like some are very surface. There's like elements of hip hop. Like there might be a trap kind of hi-hat for a little while that is very upfront in the mix and very obvious what it is. And then there's things that you may not even understand what you're hearing. With all that being said, though, I think that it's super listenable and engaging. It sounds like what I'm describing is just a hodgepodge of weirdness, but I think it's very cohesive and a very cool experience. In the description, it states that it uses theta frequency waves. This is a concept that there are certain frequencies that affect different elements of your being. So like just maybe your constitution, or it could help with anxiety, or just getting you into more of a hypnagogic state or hypnotic state. Anyway, it says that it uses that. I don't know, maybe. Yeah, I think if there was some sort of nexus where African Head Charge, The Bug, Bow Wow Wow, Diamanda Gallus, and The Residents came together, then that maybe would start to describe it. It has a deep dub element to it. It has crazy backwards vocals at times that have like kind of off-key harmonies and very resonance like. But yeah, I don't know exactly what else I can say about it. I would say that if you're into sort of like, I guess what would have been called world music back in the day, you would like elements of it. I think if you like dub, I think if you just like experimental stuff that you can actually put on and it's not off-putting, I think this is very intriguing yet accessible. I don't know. What do you think, Dan?
Yeah, I really thought that, probably even more so than you, Eric, that I just really cannot compare this to really anything else, like just solidly. Like it's really one of those things where I feel like it totally exists on its within its own thing, I guess. And but it's a very captivating, very atmospheric, mesmerizing, hypnotic, all those things that you described, Eric. It's very much a listening experience. Like you said, Eric, it's there are parts of it that I think are very rap slash electronic inspired. I know that there was one track that started off where I was thinking, okay, where exactly is this going? Because it started off sounding like a trap beat, sort of. And then all of a sudden it was just this sort of like, I don't know, parts of this record kind of gave me the feeling of like sort of like a ritual going on, like chanting, type stuff. And then other parts of it were very percussion driven, which was really cool. Almost had like a tribal element to it, for lack of a better way to describe it. But then, yes, the weird vocals were just added like this whole sort of element to it that just made it sound like it didn't even exist on this planet. It's fantastic. It's really just an engaging experience. I feel like I'm just gonna say these are sort of comparisons, because again, I can't really compare it to anything else completely, but like I heard some pretty like free jazz elements at times. So I think that if you're like into like fusion jazz type stuff, this album might appeal to you. There's also like a new age element kind of going on, which I think kind of goes hand in hand with what were the frequencies called again?
Theta frequencies.
Theta frequencies. Yeah. I think that kind of goes hand in hand with that. I definitely felt that. And then I would say another artist that at times this really reminded me of was Throbbing Gristle. At times, just because it was so kind of seemed to have like a view that I'm going to show you a different way to maybe look at and experience and listen to music. And that's exactly how I would describe at least the early Throbbing Gristle stuff. That there really were no rules to any of this. You know what I mean? Yeah, it was a very just definitely cinematic moments. And yeah, it was a very intriguing listen. And I think if you're into any sort of experimental avant-garde music, I think this would be your cup of tea, for sure. And if you're into, I didn't even think about like the sort of Residence comparisons when you're talking about the off-kilter vocals and everything. That's totally true. Yeah, it's a really tough one to nail down, and but that's not a bad thing at all. Very interesting. And it's I'll tell you that it was interesting enough for me to listen to like 3 times.
Nice.
And that's with a record like this, that's kind of rare for me, and so it's definitely interesting. And I think even if you're not into experimental music so much, I think this could still appeal to you. Like Eric said, it's a very listenable, it's an enjoyable experience, but maybe it's something that you have to, for me anyway, I would have to approach it as like listening to it, this is how I did it, listening to it on the headphones with like really nothing else going on and just really letting it kind of take you to another place. That's exactly what it did.
Nice.
So I really enjoyed it.
Cool. I forgot to say the name of the record.
Oh, yes.
It's Play at Night.
Yes. Very, very good if you're into any of that stuff, for sure. Okay, so continuing with some more hip hop, some more sort of on the more experimental side, though I would say that this is definitely not as experimental or wild as the subtitle pick that I had last episode. This is Rahiem Supreme, and the name of the record is Doggone Serious. The only thing I know about Rahiem Supreme is that he's from Washington, D.C., and that he is prolific as hell. I think just in 2022 alone, he's already released 4 albums, and he just has a whole bunch of records. So this is a very interesting. I actually did not listen to this record before I picked it. I listened to other Rahiem Supreme records, but I wanted to pick something that was like the most current. And then I shit you not, by the time I picked this, he had already come out with another record. Like that seems to be how quick he puts out records. So this is a very lo-fi produced record. I would say it's very funky and spacey and kind of weird. Um, the beats are very gritty and really has like an 80s, at times it has a very 80s almost like television theme aesthetic to it. I mean, there are times where it straight up sounds like mall wave, like the beats do. But then there are other times where it sounds very sort of conscious boom bap sort of stuff as well. It's really kind of the way the music is produced, like the production on it and everything, is really done in a way that I really can't describe it 100%. It's kind of a mishmash of a lot of different things. I feel. Um, I guess like the best way I would describe this would be like dark, funky boom bap or something like that. Lyrically, Rahiem Supreme is just rapping his ass off on like every song. It's just like literally like bars upon bars upon bars. It's just, I mean, to the point where there's almost not really a chorus on a lot of songs, yet it's very catchy. It's very like the music itself is very catchy, and there are definitely like hooks on some of the songs, but I mean some of the songs he's just rapping just like almost like nonstop, it seems like, and then just all of a sudden like abruptly quits. And yeah, I mean it's a pretty difficult album to completely narrow down and describe. But the sound of his voice, I think it kind of gives it sort of like a nerdy outsider element somewhat. And so in that way, I could definitely compare it, at least his voice, a little bit to like Subtitle. But overall, I would say that his aesthetic, his sort of like the way he presents himself, his delivery reminds me a lot, and I mean a lot, like Kool Keith. Not even just his delivery and the way that he sounds, it's his cadence, the way that he raps, what he raps about. And also, he does a lot of talking sometimes before he starts rapping, which is exactly what Kool Keith does. I mean, a lot of MCs do that. But also, it seems like he's kind of almost, and I have no idea, I cannot confirm this, but it almost seems like he's almost following the same career path as somebody like Kool Keith, because Kool Keith does this. Kool Keith is basically, in my opinion, the godfather of like sort of this underground indie rap that we're seeing now, where it's not really totally underground because he's pretty well known, but at the same time, he puts out like 5 records a year. And some of them, and they kind of vary in like presentation. Sometimes they're really lo-fi. Sometimes they're really produced very well. Sometimes they're maybe like it's more like a trap record. Sometimes it's more like a old school jazz hip hop record. Sometimes, you know, and that's kind of, in that sense, Rahiem Supreme really reminds me of Kool Keith, but he's got his own style, his own take on it. I would also say that if you're into 80s old school beats, 90s R&B, modern boom bap, and if you're into all things lo-fi, as well as just a whole other list of things that I can't really put my finger on when it comes to like underground hip hop, I really think that you would enjoy this. There's lyrically, some of the lyrics are really goofy. Sometimes he seems to be rapping about conspiracy stuff. Sometimes he seems to be rapping kind of this weird sort of commentary on current events. And then other times he just kind of toots his own horn a little bit, you know, which I mean, most rappers do that, the braggadocio type stuff.
Right.
But it's always really interesting, especially the way that he flows. He always keeps it really interesting and always makes me want to hear the next song and what he's going to be doing. I would also say if you're into MF Doom, if you're into Wu-Tang Clan, particularly ODB, there's a little bit of Old Dirty Bastard in this. I would say a little bit of Anti-Pop Consortium, not so much the electronic side of Anti-Pop Consortium, but I definitely hear like hear some of the rappers from Anti-Pop Consortium in his voice as well.
Hmm.
Say a little bit of Outcast, a little bit of Dell, the Funky Homo Sapien, and just, overall good underground lo-fi hip hop. I think that you would really dig this. I don't know. I kind of struggle a little bit to describe this as well, but at the same time, like it, I guess the best thing I can say about this record, the last thought I can have about it is it feels new to me, yet somewhat oddly familiar and oddly like nostalgic at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's kind of like a hip hop record where I feel like it hasn't quite been done before, or I've never really heard a rap record that is exactly like this. But at the same time, it kind of has like a warm feeling to it, like I'm coming home to something I've heard before, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. What do you think, Eric?
I like this a lot. I do have to say, when I first saw the name Rahiem, I was like, oh shit, we're gonna listen to a beatboxing record.
Right.
But no, this is Rahiem Supreme, which is different. Yeah, it is something. And when it first starts, I kind of like this when it happens, where you start an album and you're like, wait, is something wrong here?
Right.
Like, are my headphones not working right, or something, because it is so lo-fi and bassy. I literally thought like, oh, I'm gonna have to change the settings on something because this is so muffled. Like everything sounded kind of like underwater for the first couple tracks. And then it's like slowly, this happened with the Portishead 3 record too, actually. Slowly it starts to clean up and starts to get a little brighter. And when the vocals come in, they start to, over time it feels honestly like you're coming out of being submerged underwater. I don't know.
Right.
It's really odd. But yeah, I thought that was cool. There's crazy samples in here. The way they're processed is strange too. It's like swirling, like the panning effect of it is like Whole Lot of Love, by Led Zeppelin, that kind of swirling panning. It's really dynamic. Some of the samples are very quiet while some come through really loud. Sometimes it's smooth. Sometimes it's super choppy and weird. Like it just isn't beholden necessarily to any sort of process. It feels like, it's like, oh, we found a sample, let's use it. But yeah, it's like the samples are everything from jazz to electro to heavy rock, and they're just sort of taken out of context and processed until it fits the song, which is really cool. And a lot of dreamy, weird sounds. So a lot of vibraphone, a lot of theremin type sounds. And I think it's supposed to sort of conjure up like a 50s sci-fi movie kind of feel, So I think that works really well. One thing that was weird is there's a full minute of silence at the end of the song Ghetto Golden Child.
Yes,
track
which I don't 4
understand on any level. It's just like the song plays and then it stops, and then for a minute nothing happens, and then the next song starts. And I don't know if it's just supposed to like mess with you as a listener, or if they uploaded it and didn't trim it right. I have no idea, but it didn't make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, I was expecting like a hidden track or something.
Yeah, something. But no, just like in the middle of the record. It's like the third song or third or fourth song or something.
I think it's the fourth song.
Yeah. So that was weird. But as far as the rapping goes, super great flow. Like Dan said, it's super nerdy delivery. It's out of key and it's exhaustive. Like there's a concept in weightlifting. It's where you lift to failure or exhaustion. And that's how I feel like this is. It's like he raps until he's out of breath, like it's just, he has so much to say so quickly that he's like, it's almost asthmatic, but it works really well. It keeps you interested in what's happening. It keeps you, it keeps the mood elevated. It makes it exciting. And so I think that's cool. And then as far as the subject matter, yeah, there's some braggadocio and there's some sort of I don't know how you say it, promotion or whatever, but the rest of the time it's really fun subjects, mostly about aliens, video games, that sort of fare, real nerdy. Yeah. my comparisons as far as the rapping are similar to what Dan said. Kool Keith, ODB. I mean, those are almost undeniable. I also said Diggable Planets, not
Yes.
just in the jazzy samples, but also in the rap delivery. I'm not sure which of the three rappers I'm thinking of specifically in Diggable Planets, but yeah. So it, like Dan said, it does feel fresh and new and weird and different, but also there was a time period, I don't even know when that would have been, probably like 1999 or something, where
Boomer tape.
this feels akin to it. It feels similar, you know, and especially Kool Keith, and even Dr. Octagon to an extent, you know. Absolutely. But it's the delivery for sure. So overall, I thought it was really cool. The production is something that I think you could listen through this a number of times and focus on a different sound or sample in each song and have a different listening experience. So it's pretty cool. I could have done with some more beatboxing though. So
yeah, it totally agree with you. It is I guess I'd be agreeing with myself because I said it first that it's like a relic from an old time, but at the same time very new and very like it could only be, it feels like it could only be made today at the same time, you know. Pretty interesting stuff. Okay, so now we are on to the local review, which is from the Quad Cities by way of a guy named Andrew Stewart Klein of the band Aqualife. Now, he mentioned that Aqualife basically had changed. Aqualife was Andrew's solo project. And I think he renamed the whole project Glurge. So this is the first offer from Glurge. And I think I'm saying it right. Eric and I kind of had somewhat of a, we were kind of trying to make sure we were saying it right, but I'm going to go ahead and call it Glurge. And Andrew knows me, so if he wants to correct me, he could.
Well, I'll call it Glurg so that one of us is right.
Sir, one of us is right. Exactly. I'm going to say Glurge, and it might be Glurg. We'll just say that. So it's based out of the Quad Cities. He's primarily a keyboard player who has done some stuff with Condor and Jaybird and Mountain Swallower, and he's been in some other bands as well from that area. I think he might currently be in Mountain Swallower. But this is another, in a much different way than Masma Dream World. This is another project that I really can't say that I've exactly heard anything else like it. I think it's amazing. Well, the first thing that's really interesting about it is that it was actually recorded on a 4-track recorder. If you read the Bandcamp notes, that is really cool that people are still using that technology and coming out with something that is so interesting and captivating. The way that I would describe this would be where to start. It's like dreamy new wave with some distorted vocals, I guess. And I don't even know if that's really distortion or if it's like reverb. There's a lot of things that I can't really exactly tell what it is on this record. And that's awesome. I would say that it's very dark, very atmospheric, pretty experimental. It sometimes is kind of, I would say, ambient. And it does give off like some Cocteau Twins vibes sometimes. But I also hear some stuff like Wall of Voodoo, Missing Persons, Spaceman 3, Spiritualized. But at the same time, I would say that it doesn't really sound like any of those at all. I'm trying to think of like, I was mentioning those things as things that you might be into this if you're into these things. I would say that the most it would kind of give off the closest to sounding like would be something like Cocteau Twins or something like that. I don't know. You may have a completely different take on that, Eric, but yeah, I really can't say much about this. There's 6 songs. It's a really short and I think a really fantastic introduction to Glurge. I'm really excited to hear what he does with future releases. It's a little bit different than Aqualife was, which I think is great. I'm assuming that that's probably why he changed the name, because he's kind of heading in a, I feel, a darker direction than Aqualife. Mm-hmm. And another thing that I'm kind of confused by, and again, Andrew, if you're going to be listening to this, because we are going to tag you, I don't know if this is, I know that it appears that the recordings are all just Andrew, but he did refer to Glurge as a group in his Facebook post. So I don't know if he's got maybe a group assembled that's going to play live. I don't know if he's got a group that's remaining anonymous for some reason. I don't know, but it's all great stuff. I really enjoy it. And I've always enjoyed the stuff that Andrew does. Yeah, so if you're into just really experimental, atmospheric, sort of new wavy stuff, but also kind of, I don't know, shoegazy or something. Again, I really can't describe this. It's really, really good. It's really great stuff. What did you think, Eric?
Yeah. I thought it was cool too. Yeah, I have not heard, I don't know Andrew, and I haven't listened to Aqualife. So this was new to me. But it sounds like it's pretty different anyway. It is really wild and noisy and moody and dreamy. And overall mellow-ish. That doesn't mean that it's boring or calm at all. It's a little, it has a nice environment that it lives in, you know. But yeah, I read a little bit about the description of it, and it sounds like it was built around vocal loops. He would record vocal loops, octave them down, things like that, and then add guitars, synths, drums, mostly fake drums, which sound phenomenal, and vocals at times. It's really washed out, fuzzy, and really pretty overall. I think that it had really cool sounds, like it had big synth pad sounds. There's a lot of reverb drenched guitars, twangy in its own way, but also there's really fuzzy, wild snake finger from the Residents type guitar solos too, but they're kind of underneath. None of this is going to just come out and make you go, oh, that's unlistenable. Like, it's all very embedded in itself, you know. There's a lot of trippy vocals that come in that teeter sort of between sort of like pitch shifted androgyny. I wouldn't know who was singing these songs, and because the vocals are so affected. But yeah, it's sort of, I had a different take on it. I totally agree with the Cocteau Twins. But it reminded me a lot, or at least a bit, of Angelo Badalamenti, especially obviously the Twin Peaks soundtrack. The David Lynch records that have come out, and Cluster quite a bit, and therefore that would usher in probably a lot of other krautrock stuff too, but Cluster specifically. And Cigarettes After Sex, I hear a lot in there too, especially vocally. Yeah, I found it to be really cool, and I hope that they play live and that I get to see them sometime, because I think it'd be really cool. I think that this could fit in sort of an ambient noise show, but I think it could fit in other types of performances too. Honestly, I think it could just kind of be dropped into anything and be an enjoyable aspect of a show. So yeah, I liked it a lot, and I hope to hear more.
Yeah, it's great stuff. A lot of good stuff coming out of Iowa these days, for sure.
Yeah.
So what did we learn today, Eric?
Oh my gosh, I don't even remember back to the beginning. Oh my god.
Yeah, I don't either. I think we learned something about Kirk Hammett. That's all I remember.
That sounds right. I don't know what else you need. I don't know. That's about it. I mean, what else? That's
really about it.
We talk about metal, we review avant-garde. That's our show.
Absolutely. I really hope that you guys listen to this and say, hey, I would really like to become buddies, computer buddies with Dan and Eric. And I would
Computer
really like to
buddies.
leave a message on
Yeah.
Instagram or Facebook and let them know about some really cool bands or artists that
yeah.
we should review or talk to.
Mhm.
Any of them, anything. We'll do anything.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Let us know.
Matter
let
if
us know
rap,
you're listening, because
let us. Yeah.
No.
Doesn't matter if it's rap, hip hop, rap and hip hop, rap or hip hop.
Yeah. We got both kinds of music, rap and
rap
hip-hop.
and hip hop, country, western, metal. Yeah, we'll talk about metal,
but not country western metal. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no country.
Got to draw
western.
the line somewhere.
Yeah. Is there really country western metal out there?
Oh, I'm sure. I'm
yeah,
sure
it's got to
some,
exist.
Some half-assed Rob Zombie rip-off bullshit. Sounds like that Everlast record or some shit.
I like how the first the first artist that you associated was Rob Zombie.
Well, mostly just the hat.
Yeah, the hat is very
the style,
You know, there was a conspiracy theory that went around that Al Jorgensen and Rob Zombie were the same person.
Oh wow. No,
yeah.
Al is so much uglier.
Yeah. But yeah, man. Well, I guess I really don't have anything else to add to this Zoom cloud meeting.
No, me neither. Yeah, no, that's good for me.
All right, y'all have a good. Y'all come back now. You hear?
Oh my god. Bye.
Bye. Oh Jesus.
Some half-assed Rob Zombie rip-off bullshit.